welcome back, everybody. This is Talking Football with Max and Frank, episode 2. Max, how you doing?
Doing well. Happy to be back.
Happy to be back. How'd you enjoy? I shouldn't say enjoy. Did you like the playoff games this week? Because I know you didn't enjoy one of them.
Well, I mean, I know the Dolphins lost, but considering the fact that they kept it at a one-possession game, Skylar Thompson had by far the best game he's had as a pro so far. I mean, listen, the guys competed at the end of the day. We lost to a better football team, but that makes me feel really good about next year. Makes me feel great about next year.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I mean, when I did my picks, I definitely picked everything to go wrong for the Dolphins. Like not a lot of yards, not looking good on offense, and, they surprised me. I'm not going to lie. It was a rough start, but the end of that second quarter, things turned around. You guys looked good.
But we gotta address the elephant in the room. I mean, all my picks hit except for one.
Which was?
I picked the Minnesota Vikings to beat the New York Football Giants, and the New York Football Giants took care of business.
Lucky for you, that's how we're starting off this episode, Max. The
Oh.
wild card recap.
Oh, are we? Okay.
We already just talked about the Dolphins. You probably don't want to go into that too much, do you? I mean,
I'm down to talk about whatever you
I
guys.
actually do want to talk about something about that game. Josh Allen. Josh Allen's great. We know that.
I'm gonna pull up the stats real
That's
quick.
cool. Yeah, let me switch the screens. All right, back to what we were saying. Josh Allen, he's looked great over his career. He started kind of slow, picked it up, became Josh Allen, but 3 fumbles, 2 interceptions in a playoff game? The whole year you've had disastrous issues with turnovers, and we talked about it last week with the whole Bills would make the first seed if they played the Chiefs and all that da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
A lot of people are going to blame that on the DeMar Hamlin situation. You turned the ball over 3 times versus the Jets. You had a disastrous game against the Dolphins in whatever week they lost to you guys. You remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So you don't have the first seed because yourself. Because you give teams opportunities to stay in games. Packers game, they won that game. Josh Allen threw 2 picks in the red zone, kept the Packers in it. Not saying you guys aren't that difficult, that much of a competitive team, but you're playing Cincinnati now. You could be going to Kansas City. You can't have 5 turnover games. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just hating. Josh Allen is still great, but the turnovers got to stop. You have to stop them now. It's the playoffs.
I mean, I think I don't know if the word is regression, but the numbers say he's regressed this year. I mean, listen, we were going into this year talking about him as an MVP candidate, and the thing is, we all know he can play up to that level. He's shown flashes throughout the year that he's an MVP caliber player. But the problem is, like you just said, he's turned the ball over too many times. And the thing is, for me, there's people you could point to Mahomes last year for a recent example. You could point to a Brett Favre, one of these gunslingers that just his play style forces him to throw a lot of picks because he takes a lot of risks and gambles, but usually they pay off, right? You could argue Josh Allen he's definitely a gunslinger. You could argue that he plays that sort of style where, it's going to produce turnovers, but at the end of the day, he's going to win you games. But the issue I take with Josh Allen in particular is that the turnovers that he commits most of the time, especially this year, have been really bad ones. Bad interceptions, bad reads. And it's not even it's a 50-50 ball, anything can happen. It's he's just missing the assignments down the field. There's times where he has receivers in double, triple coverage and the safety or whatever, can read the play and just picks him off in just the dumbest way possible. I mean, I remember, was it the Jets game that he threw it right? He threw it to Sauce, right? Threw it right into Sauce's hands. It's who are you throwing to? And that was what? That was wasn't that in the red zone?
He had a pick where I believe it was on. One was a far left sideline just to nobody, and then the right
Yeah.
side was a rollout. And rather than lead his
That's
tight
what
end out of
that's the one
bounds,
I'm thinking of.
just
Yeah.
undercut. I don't know if that was Sauce. That might have been DJ Reed. I don't
Either
remember.
way,
I don't
it was
remember,
a
but
defense for the Jets that got that pick, and it was one of these like you could see it in Josh Allen's face after. He's like, "Why did I throw that ball? Like, why did I make that read?" Um, and in this case, although I don't think the interceptions were quite as head scratching in this game, I do think that they were stupid nonetheless. I mean, he fumbled the ball. I mean, here's the thing: they're going to account for the time that he fumbled the ball, which caused us to score a touchdown early in the third quarter. But like, if you watch the game, he fumbled the ball multiple times, but they retrieved it
he
again. So they're not
fumbled
going to
it
count.
3 times and he lost one. But
That's what
three
I'm saying.
fumbles isn't good.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's horrendous. He fumbled 3 times and threw 2 picks. I
Like
mean,
I know. I said earlier you can't have 5 turnovers. He didn't have 5 turnovers. He had 3, but
right.
3 fumbles isn't like, oh, you recovered it. You still fumbled. He's
But what
fumbled.
does that tell you, Frank? What does that tell you? That says that he's holding on to the ball too long. I think it's a mixture of a couple things. Let's first talk about the things he can control. You know, how long he holds on to the football. Not, and we spoke about this last week. Not every play has to be a home run play.
Yep.
That's also the byproduct of not having a run game. You're banking on the fact that you have these speedsters down the field that can make big plays and get big chunk yards, right? That's because there's no run game to help you mitigate, or help you mitigate game tempo. So you got to go for big plays to get yardage because teams are going to scheme for the pass. But so that's what he can control is like maybe throw the ball out of bounds, maybe rely more on the run game. What he can't control is their protection was horrendous. Their offensive line played a dog shit football game. And they're going against a Miami pass rush that, in my opinion, is average at best. So don't get me wrong, the interior lineman, Christian Wilkins is probably the best D tackle in the NFL right now. Right now. Aaron Donald's hurt, so that's why I say that. But out of players that are not currently injured and in the playoffs, not anymore, but he was, he was best DT. You could argue him or Dexter Lawrence, but I think the numbers would suggest that Christian Wilkins is a better player in terms of more tackles, XYZ. You can make an argument, though. You know, I have a soft spot for Dexter Lawrence. But, and Zach Sealer has had a pretty decent year himself. I don't know if you know much about him, but he's one of these lesser known, not a household name, but he gets the job done in the interior. So aside from those two, the edge rushers are pretty mediocre. Bradley Chubb we acquired. He hasn't done much. He got a strip sack. Was it a strip sack? I know he stripped the ball. I'm not sure if that's one of the ones they recovered. Either way, he made a couple big plays in the game. Throughout the year, since we got him in the trade deadline, he has been great. Ogba's been out all year, pretty much. And Jalen Phillips also had a good game. So Jalen Phillips is a budding star. But all things considered, our edge rushers aren't particularly the best. Like I'm saying, depth-wise, it's a position which we lack. And their protection made us look like we are like the San Francisco 49ers or something. And that's something that I would be very concerned with if you're going against the Bengals pass rush. I mean, I know we're not going to talk about that game quite yet, but I don't know how you feel about that.
Well, for me, it's more of because Josh Allen we'll say he's got away with it. They got the second seed. They're still in the playoffs. But you're going against teams now. You're not playing bottom seeds. You're not playing the Patriots. You're not picking on these worser teams. You're now playing the teams.
Yeah.
And yes, you beat the Chiefs earlier. You beat the Chiefs when you cut the turnovers down. What happens if you go out and have 2 picks and 3 fumbles again against Kansas City, who's playing red-hot football? The defense has gotten so much better since that game. What happens, Josh Allen, if you cost your team the game? Now, one thing I'll say is everybody knows this. This is obvious. They're there because of him. But you'll also lose a game because of him. If he makes that many turnover-worthy plays against the wrong team, they'll make you pay.
Yeah, but it's just like Mahomes last year with the Chiefs.
Yeah.
I mean, just to go back to that analogy, it's like, in any sport, teams are going to be riding or dying with their best players. and especially in football that it's so quarterback centric. And so I don't think that's a particularly. I don't know if that's. I don't know what you're getting at. If you're trying to say that that's like a very bad thing, or if that's they're too Josh Allen reliant. I'm not
No,
sure
no,
what your
no.
bigger.
I'm just saying you're there because Josh Allen is your best player. But if he makes the plays that will cause turnovers and stuff like that, you won't win games because he is your best player.
Right.
So, I mean, obviously, if a quarterback makes 5 mistake-worthy plays, turnovers, fumbles, picks, you're probably going to lose that game. But you're
Sure.
lucky you played a team where you had what's the word I'm looking for? An inexperienced quarterback in Skylar Thompson. I guarantee you. I mean, if Tua was out there, I'm pretty confident they win that. After
I
seeing,
mean, I wish I could say that, but at the same time, like the game script would have been different for the Finns.
yes, would have.
Like
But
it's hard to say. Like, yeah.
after seeing how everything went down and how you guys came back, if it kind of follows that line, I don't think you have to come back from such a deficit and all that. Like dig
Well,
yourself out of a hole.
to make a point, to your point, I mean, look, I think especially that last drive for the Finns, where it was a 4th and 1, bad clock management, quarterback and the coach, don't seem to be getting the playoff. They're not in the same wavelength. They're having
Yeah.
issues getting the ball snapped and whatnot. I think if Tua's there, you start seeing similar issues of clock management because at some point it is the coach's fault, and
Mm-hmm.
he's a rookie coach. It's his first playoff game coaching. I get that, and it's in Buffalo, very loud place to play. But that's also on the quarterback for not, at the end of the day, they're the ones controlling the huddle. They're the ones controlling the snap count. And, I mean, Skylar Thompson has to be better. He's a rookie, I get it, and I don't think Tua makes those mistakes per se. But again, I do think bigger picture, just to finish on this point, McDaniel has to get better at clock management in general. I think this has been an issue with him throughout the entire year. If I had, again, fantastic coach, glad we hired him, excited to see what he produces with this team next year, but there's one knock I have on him. It's his lack of clock management. I think he does a pretty poor job, but I think that comes with time.
Yeah, and I agree with you. It's just kind of not a. I don't know if you can call it a rookie mistake, but it's like you live and you learn. First playoff game, you're going into Buffalo. Move on, learn from it next year.
Right.
Anything else you want to say about this game?
No, I feel like we should talk about your Giants.
I think before we talk about the Giants, just talk about the 49ers Seahawks. Get that out of the way real quick. I have a quick
All right, let's
quick
do
one
it.
for
Let's
that.
do it. Sure.
Nothing too crazy. Kind of expected this, but start of the game, he looked kind of rough. Finished it up, cleaned it up, played a great game after
Brock
that.
Purdy?
Is Brock Purdy for real?
Oh, yeah, he's for real.
Is he their quarterback next year?
Listen, I've told you this over the phone. He's the franchise quarterback for the 49ers for the next 15 years. I'm putting that out there already. The thing is, like, right now, I understand. Listen, that first half was, and I feel like people are overplaying that first half too. Like, was it shaky? Like, did he make some questionable reads? Could have maybe thrown a pick or two? Yes. But at the same time, he didn't do those things. And he actually was. The thing is, like, he's not throwing at 80% efficient, 80% efficiency versus, which is what he normally threw in the regular season because look at the guys he has around him. He threw for like under 50% completion percentage, which is not ideal, but he's not throwing picks. He was still relying on McCaffrey, and it was still a pretty closely contested first half. But then once he eased into the game, look what happens. Look at the score line. Look at the stats. I mean, you're saying 332, 3 touchdowns on 18 for 30. I mean, that's a clean game of football, especially in your first playoff game. And the thing that we're gonna have, the thing that we have to mention is they have another home playoff game. So the fact that they're going to be playing at home is just going to ease the pressure for Purdy a little bit, I think. And I just think as long as he has the supporting cast around him or anything similar to this, and again, to that point, and we could talk about this a little bit more if you want, Frank. I feel like the 49ers for years have been that team that's like, what if XYZ player isn't hurt? Because everyone gets hurt for the 49ers for some reason. It's just been happening for years. This is the healthiest I think I've ever seen the 49ers at this stage of the playoffs. If not recently, it was probably not since they made it to the Super Bowl a couple years ago. And they're a better football team this year than they were then, for sure.
100%.
So the fact that these guys are all healthy, the fact that Brock Purdy has probably, if not the best, top three offensive line in football, probably the best running back in football right now. I mean, it's just like, it's a perfect situation. He's an efficient thrower of the football. He was a 4-year starter in college. I mean, look, I like Purdy a lot. I think he bodes well for this team. I think the guys really respect him and rally around him, and I think he plays a good, clean game of football every game.
Yeah, I made a tweet after the game because I realized something. The Panthers really chose, out of all teams, the 49ers to give Christian McCaffrey to.
I know.
And I saw his numbers today since becoming a Niner. Have you seen his numbers since becoming a Niner?
No.
I think it's 12 touchdowns, 1,200 yards, 200 plus touches. That's 10 weeks of football he played.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And one of those weeks, he didn't play much because it was the first week he played versus Kansas City.
Right.
So I think McCaffrey has definitely revived his name, his career, he's just a injury-prone guy, da-da-da-da-da. No, McCaffrey is still him. The 49ers are still them. And Brock Purdy, I'm picking to beat Dallas this week. I just wanted to get that out real quick. I think the Niners can.
Let's talk about that game once we're there.
We can move on.
I have a couple things I want to point out.
We can move on to the next game. We can move on to the Giants one now. You wanted to talk about
All right, let's talk Giants. Listen. That's more you than me, so let's talk about it.
Let me get something off my. I gotta say it real quick to everybody.
Here we go.
No,
I already know where this.
I'm not gonna get too crazy. Calm down. Okay. Daniel Jones. No, listen. Passed for 300 yards, ran for 78, and honestly, the 17 carries needs to be cut down to 13.
On the 25th ranked defense in the NFL.
Hold on, we're not done yet.
I think they're 25. They're definitely down there.
He ran it was really 13 carries, but he took some knees. 78 yards, 300 passing. Daniel Jones played the best game he's played as a pro. Maybe not numbers-wise because he's had better passing games where he had like 4 passing touchdowns against Washington and stuff. Nothing crazy. But the most efficient. He was clean, smart with the ball, ran when he had to. Made the smartest decisions I've ever seen Daniel Jones make. And some of his completions were drops. Some of his completions were batted balls at the line, stuff like that. They weren't like bad reads or bad like placement. With that being said, it was the Minnesota Vikings, who have a very poor secondary, and it scares me, going into Philly this week. But there's a guy named number 18, Isaiah Hodgins, who we picked off from the Buffalo practice squad, Max, who just emerged as our number 1 receiver and has been getting a touchdown a game since he's been here. Has like 600 yards on the year in 5 weeks and a touchdown in every game almost. So I think the Giants and Daniel Jones have found their confidence in each other, and they're giving him the keys to the offense, and he's just controlling the show. Saquon didn't touch the ball a lot, as you can see. 9 carries and 5 catches, but he averaged 8 yards every time he touched it. So Saquon being there, I think, made it easier for Daniel Jones to succeed.
And Saquon had a great game.
Yes, he had a great game. And I think them not giving the ball to Saquon, but him being a part of the offense, like motions, and they put him at receiver some plays and had Breida in the backfield, just kept defensive eyes on him, making it easier for everybody else. So I don't want to get too much into this game outside of Justin Jefferson didn't show up. He was bracketed. They played 2 men on him every game, every play. Shut him down. They let Hawkinson beat them because of that. And it came down to Kirk throwing a dump down on the final play of the game, which lost them the game. I still think Kirk played a great game. If you can go to the Vikings stats really quick. Kirk played a very clean football game. Yeah, 273, 2 touchdowns. He didn't do anything bad. It's just they didn't do enough to win. Hawkinson played phenomenal. But
Well, that's because you guys were double, triple
yes,
covering this
he
guy.
had 6 catches in the first half, one in the second.
Yeah.
But with all that being said, Giants now move on. First playoff win since 2011. Does Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley get a new contract, Max? That's the question I have for you.
I think Daniel Jones for sure. I think Saquon is a TBD depending on what happens with DJ. Because I think with
Saquon could be
DJ,
tagged. Saquon could be tagged if
oh, so here's the thing, right? That's why I say that because what if they tag DJ and then eventually sign him to an extension, or they just sign him to an extension and then tag Saquon? Like, you know what I
yeah.
mean? It depends on how they go about it. I do think DJ is going to be a giant for the foreseeable future after this game.
I think it's gonna be the sign DJ, tag Saquon, and work on a deal as the year goes on.
I just think with Saquon, like, okay, it's unfair because he did have a great football game. The numbers
Yes.
will say he had a meh game, but he had a pretty good game if you
He
watch the game.
was Daniel Jones had the numbers. Saquon was the eyes. He had everybody paying attention to him.
And Saquon played an efficient game of football, like
Yes.
53 yards on 9 carries, 2 tutters, and he what caught the ball for 56, so over 100 yards, over 100 scrimmage yards. I mean, that's a very good football game.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I mean, I think Saquon's is central, but this is where I start. So I think DJ's safe. So ignore DJ from this conversation. DJ's going to be the quarterback for the Giants for the next couple of years. The question with Saquon is this, right? Do you really tag him and give him what? What's the tag rate for running backs? Probably in the high teens, low 20s
Probably.
million, for a running back. Is that really good use of the cap when in reality you guys could just draft Bijan Robinson?
I don't know. Could we draft Bijan Robinson? We're
Yeah.
drafting
I
pretty
mean,
low
it
now.
depends on what Philly does with the pick,
Yeah.
and also that depends what what Philly decides to do with the pick. In my opinion, is contingent on what happens with what Chicago decides to do, with what the Raiders decide to do if they get a quarterback, trade Carr, this and that. Because then you start seeing all these pass rushers fall because they're
Yeah.
going to be taking offensive skill position players, probably quarterbacks, and probably receivers. I can see the Bears making a play at JSN a little bit early or whatever. So then that leaves pass rushers available later on. What if a guy like Miles Murphy from Clemson, for instance, like drops down to 10? If you're the Eagles, who do you take, Bijan or Miles Murphy? I think you take Miles Murphy.
I mean, hey, you're the draft guy. You know all about this stuff.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, these are guys that are like top 8-ish prospects. The Eagles want to refine their D line. Like the interior of the D line is set because they drafted the kid out of Georgia. I forget his name.
Jordan Davis?
Yes, they're not going to draft Jalen Carter for that reason, unless they think Fletcher Cox is declining, which I think Fletcher Cox is fine. The pass rush, though, I think is decent, but that's why they traded. Who did they trade for? I'm trying to remember. Didn't they trade for a pass rusher this
Oh,
year?
Robert
Wasn't it
Quinn.
Quinn? Quinn, yeah.
Yeah.
That's why they had to trade for Robert Quinn because they needed a little bit of help on the edge. That's why I think if an elite pass rusher is available, edge rusher in particular, they'll probably take him. Which the reason why I'm going on this little tangent is because if they were to theoretically take an edge rusher, then that means Bijan's going to fall. I think Brady's out of Tampa Bay. The only other team I think out of the top 10 that might take Anthony Robinson or might take Bijan Robinson, excuse me, would be Tampa Bay because they have a hole at running back. But if they lose out on Tom Brady, they might have to draft a quarterback. And if they draft a quarterback, then the only other team that I could see really making a push for a running back are the Giants if they choose to not sign Saquon
Saquon,
Barkley
yep.
to an extension.
Yeah, it's a
And
lot.
that's a viable option.
It's a lot of. It's a lot of speculation going on still because you'd think with the year he's had, oh, he'd for sure get a contract, bounce back year, but it's still all that speculation. You don't know what's gonna
And the
happen.
thing is, again, one and done deal. You're giving the guy 20 plus million in cap. Why would you do that for a running back when you're going to have to give Daniel Jones a pretty fat extension, right? Let's be honest. So
Yep.
that's already going to trim a lot of your cap. You're gonna probably make a move for playmakers, right? Like wide receivers probably refine the secondary a little bit if I had to guess. Why would you then spend a huge chunk of your cash on? I'm not And this is not a shot on Saquon. It's more the position at large.
Yeah.
Why invest that much in a running back when you could theoretically draft a guy who plays very similar to him, may not be as good as he is now, but could very well end up being that good?
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? Like, it's about cap management and how much they value Saquon. Now, my argument's thrown out the window if Saquon goes against the Eagles and runs for like 100 yards and scores a couple touchdowns, and you guys are in an NFC championship.
Then I think
And he's getting his contract.
That's what I think. That's why I didn't want to like go much too into the Eagles game while talking about this. But like I said, it was the Vikings. They do have a poor defense.
I think DJ's safe regardless.
I think
by the way.
no, but it's like for Saquon, how if you have a shitter against the Eagles, the game we need you most, division rival, you've played them. This would be the third time.
Right.
To send us to the NFC Championship, and you give us a shitter. You get even if it's they scheme for you, but you draw eyes and you help other players. Okay, I'm okay with that. But if they lock you up, lock everything else up, you can't do nothing. What do? It's a mess. You know what I mean? So that's where I'm at with that. I'm very happy the Giants won, though. You want to move on to the next game?
Yeah, let's talk. We gotta talk this game. Talk.
I wanted to save it, but we could talk.
Oh, you want to save it? Okay, let's talk. Let's talk this one first, then.
Okay, nothing really too crazy to talk about. Here's what I'm going to say. To cut this one short, if you're a Bengals fan and you grittied in the parking lot after you won, stop it. Stop it.
That's so great. It's embarrassing.
You made it a one-score game against Tyler Huntley with, look who his receivers are. Look who his second best receiver is, Max.
No, I know.
Look who his third was. Look who his fourth was. Look who his fifth was.
I mean, we're talking a really extensive, wide receiver room here. We got Mark Andrews is a baller. We know. No, that.
Mark Andrews. That's why
you're talking D-Rob, Josh Oliver, who I don't even know who that is.
That's a backup
Sammy
tight end.
Watkins probably shouldn't even be in the league anymore. And you have two running backs on here. Like
you have three running backs.
Three running backs. Yeah, Dobbins. Yeah,
and a fullback. No, bro. I don't want to hear a Bengals fan be proud about this game. If I'm a Bengals fan, listen. You're a great offense. We know that. I think the Ravens defense isn't as bad as people make it out to be. I think the Ravens defense is good. So I think they played a good game against Cincinnati. My issue is you're going to play Buffalo now. And yes, Buffalo, like I said, they have their issues with Josh Allen's turnovers. Okay, imagine if he plays the cleanest game of his life. The Bills aren't making it out of that, or the Bengals aren't making it out of that game alive. You just scrapped with.
Man, the Bengals aren't going to beat the freaking Bills.
You just scrapped with Tyler Huntley.
I'm not going to go too much into it because I know we're going to cover it in a little bit, but they're not beating the Bills. Yeah. Okay, they're not beating the Bills.
So that's all I got to say. I mean, the Bengals.
Oh, can I say? Actually, I wasn't sure if you're going to bring up this question about what's the elephant in the room in this game. I'm going to leave it up to you. You already know. It's.
I feel like I don't know.
The quarterback.
Oh, Joe
quarterback
Burrow.
for the Ravens.
Okay. I have that as a topic in a second. Yeah, okay.
Okay. Yeah. Then I'll wait.
No, you good. That's why I sent you the list, Max. But no, yeah, it's a disaster for the Ravens. The fact that they made it a 7-point game and it came down to a 4th and 10 at the 20, no. The Bengals should not be celebrating at all. Do not be. If you're a Bengals fan, worry. Don't celebrate.
This is why I'd be worried.
Exactly, bro. We talked about it last week on our show. We talked about it last week, Max.
This guy's just run the ball. No, and they lost. What's his name? They lost the lineman. They lost their tackle.
Yeah.
And so they already lost. Okay, refresh me on. They lost the guy who they traded for from the Cowboys.
La'el Collins.
They lost him during the season.
Yep.
Now they lost their other tackle, Jonah Williams. He's probably out for the rest of the playoffs.
Didn't they say they have their guard from the Super Bowl now playing tackle? I can't remember his name.
Is that what it is?
I think it's their guard playing tackle now.
So you have no starting tackles.
And
look how bad their run game is.
It's bad, bro. Like I'm really not trying to bash the Bengals, but the Ravens. I understand division rivals. You play them 3 times. It's they know what you're gonna do at that point. They've seen you 3 times this year. But it's Tyler Huntley and a bunch of practice squad receivers. And you won because Sam Hubbard stripped the ball at the 1-yard line and ran it back for a touchdown, 99 yards. That's why you won. No one on your team played spectacular on offense to win it. So, You need your playmakers to be playmakers in Buffalo. Let's move on to the next game before we rant for an
Move
hour on
on
this
to the
team.
next game. Move on to the next game. This is the well, no,
Let's
we
go
got
this
this one. We can talk about this one.
I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna say this right now. I'm not surprised Dallas won.
At all.
I am very surprised that Dak played a flawless football game. By flawless, I mean clean, no turnovers, throwing great passes.
My thing is this though. Like, okay, yeah, did I expect him to throw for 304 touchdowns? No. But when the run game is that dominant, I mean, that's just going to make the situation, that's going to make the passing game so much easier for the quarterback. And listen, Tampa Bay's secondary was nowhere to be found. Nowhere to be found.
And you want to know what was bad?
Talkin.
We're going to talk about this topic after we talk about the last playoff game. Number 12 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers looked the worst I've ever seen him.
Yeah,
he passed 66 times, Max. Look how many times they ran it. They don't.
But that's not. Is that on him?
No.
That's not on.
No, here's what I'm gonna say. You left Brady no choice but to pass the ball every play, and his passes were either behind receivers, they were not connecting, like the chemistry. Like I don't know how much of the game. Did you watch all the game?
I watched. I mean, I think once it was like 24-0. I kind of just stopped.
There were
watching.
some plays where I think it was like Mike Evans ran it in or something like that behind him. He threw a streak to Mike Evans, he drops it. Then you throw a ball to Julio, it's behind him. You throw a ball to this guy, it's over his head. It's in the dirt. Brady, yeah, you passed for 351 yards and a touchdown. You also threw the ball 61 times because your run game's irrelevant. And it's all kind of just like they kind of just looked at him like, can you do it all for us? This guy's 40-something years old, 46 years old.
He can't.
He's
gone. He's gone.
And they had a chance to make it look even closer than it was. They had a chance to make it 21-31, and Evans dropped the ball. And then that led to Russell Gage getting injured. Pray for him. He got hit in the neck. He was on the floor. And it's just like the whole season just kind of felt like a disaster. Every play just looked bad.
I mean, this team should not be finishing with a losing record. Mm-hmm. I mean, let's start with that. They were 8-9 to get out of the regular season. Yeah, they won the division, but that's just because they're in the worst division in football. But 8-9 for this Buccaneers team is embarrassing.
Yep.
Let's start with that. I don't think Todd Bowles can be a head coach in the NFL. I think it's on him. I think if Arians was on here, they would have figured out a way to manage, at least offensively.
Yeah, I don't know what to say about this team. I really don't.
No, Brady's out of here. Brady's out of there. And listen, and even if he leaves, Tampa Bay can't complain. He won them a Super Bowl. They had some really, really, really good years. And you know what? Like you said, you can't be having Tom Brady throw for 60 times a game. It's not sustainable. He knows that that's not sustainable, especially if he wants to keep playing. So there's a lot of teams out there that are willing to take him in a lot of, in my opinion, much better offensive situations. And so we don't have to really harp on that point as much now, but I do think, we spoke about the Buccaneers winning this game, Cowboys winning this game last week. I just expected the defensive performance is not surprising at all. At all.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, did I expect them to dominate quite as much as they did? No, but did I expect them to play at a very high level, especially against a team that can't run the football? Yes. I mean, when you can't run the football and you're throwing 60 times a game, and the thing is, it's not Josh Allen, right, who's like 15 years younger than Tom Brady or whatever.
Can move around,
Yeah, he can move around.
Even though he makes the fumbles and the picks and the back, he can at least make. That's what I'm saying. Josh Allen can make plays for himself. He can make plays for his team. Brady is gonna make the throw, but that's about all he can do now. He can't.
And also, here's the thing. Let's compare receiving cores. Like, it's crazy that I'm saying this because Godwin and Evans, they had 1,000-yard receiving seasons, at the same time or whatever, but Evans has not looked the same this year.
Evans has looked bad.
Godwin's been the only one that's been consistently good, so I can't really take anything away from him. But so if you're comparing the Bills' receiving core to the Buccaneers, right? You're talking Diggs, Gabe Davis, who's emerged as a really dominant receiver. They got this kid. Let me get his name real quick. That was catching some. He was making some really big plays. I don't want to
mispronounce his name, but I know who you're talking about. You're talking about
Khalil Shakir. They got Cole Beasley back. I mean, these are maybe not household names, but these are guys that get the job done, man. And you're comparing it to, again, Buccaneers have all the big names. You got Chris Godwin, Julio Jones, Mike Evans, you know? But guess what? Mike Evans isn't the same player. Julio Jones is 100 years old. I know on the surface it looked like he had a good game, but I'm sure that was garbage time.
Honestly, Julio, he disappointed me this year. Ever since he went to Tennessee, he's been disappointment to me. I thought
He just needs to retire, man.
I
He's
thought he
past
was
his,
going to
he's past
revive
his
his
prime.
career, but his I think his time is done.
Listen, the guy's a first ballot Hall of Famer. You know what? Like, retire with dignity. You're done.
Yeah.
You're done when you're done. And I think that Julio Jones has had, again, I think he's a first ballot Hall of Fame type player.
Mm-hmm.
The guy's he's a generational receiver.
Yep.
I just think, at this point, this is the sharp decline of his career. I think he has to call it quits. Godwin, I can't take anything away from him. He's still just as good as he's always been. But when the guys around him aren't doing the job, and also think about this is a point that I don't think people talk about enough. Although Gronk has regressed, think of the reemergence of Gronk in the passing game last year. Like how much of a factor he was and helped bail out those receivers. So guys like
even with Gronk being, I don't even want to say he's old, but he took the hits, he retired, he came back, all that stuff. Even when he came back and people kind of weren't expecting Gronk to be Gronk, he still was enough for Brady to be that safety net, that guy you still have to watch for. That's what I expected from Julio to be, that guy you have to watch for. And he just wasn't this year.
I mean, again, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
But again, it all starts with the run game is dog shit.
Yes.
If the run game was somewhat decent, average, these receivers would look way better.
Mm-hmm.
But again, the running backs have been horrendous. The offensive line all years dealt with injuries. Ryan Jensen showed up. This was the first game of the year for him because he got hurt in the playoffs last year.
Yeah.
So it's dysfunctional offensive line. Donovan Smith, I don't understand how that guy starts. I don't understand how that guy starts.
I think they said he has the most holding calls and the most penalized linemen in the league this year.
I just remember watching Donovan Smith for almost 10 years, and every single time I've ever watched him, I'm like, why is this guy on the field right now? You know what I mean? He always draws a penalty. He always gets beat by pass rushers. I just don't think he's very good.
He's bad.
So Brady has to deal with that. He loses Wirfs to injury. He's been working with a backup center all year until a couple nights ago. The guards have been changing throughout the year. He doesn't have a healthy offensive line. Makeshift offensive line. Running backs have been horrendous. Leonard Fournette has regressed significantly. Of course, the receivers aren't going to be playing well. I mean, defenses are scheming against the pass, especially if this guy has to throw 66 times a game, But
with that being said, it's just to kind of wrap it up, like I said, they could have cut it to 21-31 at the end, but Evans dropped a touchdown he had, and it's just kind of that's their season. You had the opportunity to make the plays, and you didn't, and then teams took advantage of that, and you just kept losing. You know what I'm saying? It was wide open. It was a 60-yard pass. They got the onside kickback. Evans going to catch a touchdown. They're going to at least cut it down, maybe get the ball back again. No. And then it leads to drops and sacks and incompletions, and it's okay, that was your opportunity. So, yeah.
All right, let's do. Ironically enough, what was the first playoff game? Wasn't this the first playoff game of the window?
I just get.
What I was saying is, wasn't this ironically the first playoff game?
This was
the window.
Window?
No, because San Fran was the first one. Okay, anyway.
Yeah.
Ignore my point then. Either way, this was the most entertaining game by far.
This game. Let me tell you something.
This is great.
Max.
And I slept through freaking the entire comeback.
Let me tell you something, Max. I didn't. And Trevor Lawrence coming out of college, I wasn't high on him because he played for Clemson. He had the five. Hold on. He played for Clemson. He had the 5-star guys. You just kind of just throwing it left, right. They're all catching it, making plays. I said he's going to get to the NFL with some bums, and it's not going to look good. And he did so much better this year than last year. Because last year, let's be honest, Urban Meyer screwed him the fuck over. Urban Meyer messed him all
100%,
up. So this year happens, they get to the playoffs. I'm like, okay, maybe T-Law is going to, be crazy. Yeah, be crazy, throw 4 picks in the first half. And I said, what the hell? Chargers go up 27, whatever. I said, Isaiah, I'm going to run upstairs. I'm going to make some burgers. I put the game on my iPad. The game started freezing, so I just closed it. I said, whatever. Came downstairs, ate some food. I said, oh, the Jags scored again. I said, okay. Then they scored one more time. I said, oh, my God, it's a one-possession game. And then they won. What the hell is going on with the Chargers? Did the Chargers choke? Did the Jaguars make the greatest? Which is it? What happened?
I just think T-Law is the greatest of all time.
I want you to go to the Chargers stats really quick. I'm going to break something down. Look at that man's numbers. Look at Justin Herbert's numbers. You said you watched the first half of the game, right?
Yeah, I did.
You notice how they had the ball most of the time in the Jaguars, or they took the ball from the Jaguars, had it in the red zone?
Yeah.
So they just really had to score off rushing plays and
exactly. They had great field position.
Herbert didn't. I'm not taking a shot at Herbert, but when it came down to it, he couldn't make the plays to win the game. One touchdown, you had your rushing touchdowns, whatever, but second quarter you couldn't put up a single score. Oh, let's look at the receivers. Everett had a great game. Keenan Allen, he's great. Josh Palmer, okay. DeAndre Carter, one of them got hurt.
They need receivers, Frank. We've been on this for a while.
Oh, wait, why don't they have their number one? Why don't they have their number one deep threat guy?
Oh, yeah.
Why isn't Mike Williams on the field? Former Clemson Tiger. Why isn't he on the field, Max? Because Brandon Staley said in a meaningless game, get out there and play. So when you needed Herbert to make a chunk play, because don't worry, Keenan Allen's a dog. We know that. But he's like a possession guy. He's a short route runner. He'll cook you on a zig, a corner route. Josh Palmer, he's kind of just there. DeAndre Carter's there. Parham really is not anything crazy for a 6'9" tight end. Gerald Everett's a tight end who just kind of runs short routes with speed. Where's your shot guy? Oh, hurt, because you got him hurt. Because you told him to play in a meaningless game. When you needed him most. In the game, you needed him most. He's not there, Max.
Yeah, I don't understand that decision at all.
I don't care about the Chargers. They're cool with me.
But especially a guy that's so injury prone, like Mike Williams.
Exactly. I know. If he gets
isn't that
hurt,
the last guy you want to put out there?
If he gets hurt in this game, it's a different story.
That's different.
You got to put him in a game that was meaningless.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure they lost in the week 18. But at the end of the day, you Brandon Staley, you screwed your team over.
They did lose. Yeah.
Brandon Staley screwed his team over. Go down to the defense for the Chargers. I'm about to give praise to some kid right now that nobody was talking about. Asante Samuel Jr. had 3 picks.
The beast.
He's a dog. Derwin, dog. Great players. You have a good defense. What happened, Max? What happened?
I think
Also,
I think it comes down to one. I think it comes down to one basic concept. Coaching matters, man. And Doug Peterson is that guy. Doug Peterson's a Super Bowl winner for a reason. He was working with Nick Foles on the Super Bowl. I mean, I understand T-Law had the worst half of his entire professional career by far. But to manage to talk to him, I'm sure he spoke to him in the locker room during halftime and said, listen, the game's not over until it's over. We're still going to trust you to win us this football game. To give T-Law that confidence as a coach, to move past that shock. I mean, think about how many other quarterbacks can go out there after that performance and then really bounce back the way that he did, which is a testament to him, but it's also a testament to his coaching, to the coaches. And also, he just put them in a situation mentally to feel confident enough to come back and win. Whereas the Chargers, I think, got complacent. And I think Staley is a bonehead, if I'm being honest. And I just think, listen, he was a very successful coordinator. I just don't think head coaching is his thing, man.
Look at.
I think if I'm the Chargers, I texted you this the other day. Listen, I'm letting him go, and I'm doing everything I can in my power to hire Sean Payton. You have a team that is a coach away. I would say you're probably a linebacker and an edge rusher because you got Khalil Mack. So you help beef up the defensive line. Uh, what's his
Joey
name?
Bosa.
Joseph Day.
Yeah, Joey Bosa too.
Joey Bosa, Joseph Day in the interiors
Mm-hmm.
had a decent year, the one they got from the Rams.
I think he was the one who started the chaos when he batted the
He
ball in the
did.
air and the tip pick at the start of the game.
He's a good player. So the pass rush is obviously on paper really good, but Bosa is unreliable as to whether or not he's going to be healthy all year. You could say the same thing about Mack. So I would say you need to draft an edge rusher or a linebacker because again, Kyle Van Noy is just getting older.
Yep.
You know, some of those guys, those are decent players, but they're aging. I think the secondary is fine. So I would say you're probably a linebacker / edge rusher, but definitely a head coach away from winning. Actually, I would probably say they're probably another receiver. I think they need a receiver as well.
They need a receiver who's reliable. Not reliable in the sense of catching, reliable in the sense of being available.
Get on the field.
Keenan Allen gets hurt, Mike Williams gets hurt. You're relying on DeAndre Carter and
Keenan
Josh
Allen's a
Palmer.
dog. Keenan Allen's a great player.
He's amazing. I love Keenan Allen. But if he gets hurt, let's say you rely on Mike Williams. Okay, what if Mike Williams gets hurt? Then you're back in
Josh Palmer and DeAndre Carter aren't going to cut it.
Exactly.
And a freaking 85-year-old Gerald Everett's just going to get worse. Okay, so like I think I take back my only. Okay, so there's three things. Okay, you need a linebacker. I would say like a true linebacker. I would say you need a receiver, if not another tight end, but definitely a receiver. And I think the most important one is you need to go and get an offensive coach. I think you need a guy like Sean Payton.
Sean Payton would be great.
Everything in your power. Listen, it's the easiest sell in the world for Sean Payton. We got a top 5 quarterback. We got a team that can compete that can compete for a Super Bowl potentially right now. We got a perennial MVP candidate. We have a pretty elite young secondary. Overall, pretty decent defense. Great run game. Like, how much more do you want? You're in LA. Sean Payton right now is working for Fox in LA. He gets to stay in LA. Probably going to get paid a premium if he works for the Chargers. It's a great sell. Go do it. Why the hell is Staley your coach? If they would have won this game by a wide margin, you got to keep them, right? Because, got to add an element of fairness. But the way they lost this game is just... Staley, again, I don't want to keep poo-pooing on Staley because, again, who am I, right? I'm just some kid.
You're just a Max.
But I'm just Max. But I do think there's a place in the league for him as a coordinator. I just think that with this team, considering their personnel, their situation, you got to be a little aggressive, man. You got the guy as your quarterback. Go maximize his talent.
And that's why I think not having Mike Williams kind of made them play more conservative because you don't have.
Even with Mike Williams, do they win this game though, Frank?
I don't think they win. I don't think they win this game, but I think it at least opens up the playbook to let's take a deep shot because you can't do that now. I mean, Keenan Allen is your deep shot guy when Keenan Allen is really just the route runner guy, the guy to make the DB slip and fall. I'm not saying he can't take a deep shot to Keenan Allen, but Mike Williams is your 6'4" speedster receiver that you throw the ball to.
Yeah.
But real quick for the Jag side, look at those receiving numbers. Look how everybody touched the ball. Look how all the receivers caught.
Dude, Evan Ingram revived his career.
Evan Ingram, love him, hate him at the same time, but I love him, and he played great. And that was most of his yards and stuff came at the start of the game. He was the target for him at the start for Trevor Lawrence.
But think about it. Here's the thing that people aren't talking about. Well, this team, by the way, is going to play the Chiefs, which I think is going to be an incredibly interesting game.
I know what you're about to say, though.
You know what I'm going to say? I said this on the phone.
I know exactly what you're saying.
People don't realize this Jags team's just going to get better. Like they're getting Calvin Ridley next year. And think about the emergence of Zay Jones, the emergence of Evan Ingram. Christian Kirk has been pretty reliable.
I'm going to say this about Zay Jones. I can't remember how long he's been in the league for, but I remember last year he was with...
He's been on a couple teams
He's been on a couple teams. Last year he was with the Raiders.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked him on the Raiders. I started to watch him a little bit more. And Zay Jones kind of emerged this year. And I remember some analysts thought, or they tweeted out, like, who would have thought Zay Jones would have been this? And I was like, Zay Jones has been good. He's just been on teams
Even
as
when he was on the Bills, he wasn't that
the
bad.
Bills. That's the team he was on. Yeah, he was always
Yeah.
been, but he's always been the backup guy. And now that he's
Yeah.
getting a role, he's not a 1, he's not a 2, but you put
He's
him
like
at you put him at
yeah.
a 3. It's better than most 3s would be.
He's always been a slot guy. Him and Marvin Jones have always been
And
perennial
the thing
slot
is,
guys.
with
Marvin
Marvin
Jones getting
Jones,
older.
the other thing with Marvin Jones getting older, he's getting his time to shine more.
Yeah.
So this team played great, amazing comeback.
Him with Calvin Ridley is
Bro,
going
it's gonna be fun to watch him next year. And also, shout out to the Jags defense for stopping this team the entire second half.
They're elite.
I mean, even though, like I said, Herbert didn't play the craziest game touchdown wise in the first half and wasn't going crazy, they held him though in the second half. They didn't let him do anything. Remember, you can't forget this, Max. The Chargers missed. Oh, you were asleep. The Chargers missed a field goal when it was a 10-point game, I think.
I didn't know that, dude. I can't. I'm actually frustrated as a T-Law guy that I slept through that.
The Chargers missed a field goal, allowing the Jaguars to score and then keep it a field goal game. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. So, shout out.
By the way,
Jags.
can we talk about this guy Trayvon Walker being a dog?
Being a dog, a quiet.
Oh, I
dog.
feel like no one wants to talk about him.
He's
man.
the quietest first-round pick I've ever seen. Nobody talks
He's
about.
a dog.
I feel like nobody talks about him and Josh Allen. I feel like just because they're both in Jacksonville.
You're saying, oh, like DN Josh Allen.
Josh Allen.
But it's different because DN Josh Allen was a top 5 pick, which, again, you would think he'd get some more traction. But Trayvon Walker was literally the number 1 pick of the draft.
Yep.
Listen, they have a really good defense, man.
It's a good team. It's really good. They deserve all the credit. And with that being said, we're going to go on to our last topic. You can keep this screen up because we're about to go back and forth from players. We're going to go on the last topic, and then we'll talk the playoffs if you still have that pulled up. Our last topic, Max.
Yeah.
What's next for Lamar Jackson and Tom Brady?
All right,
I wanted you to keep this up so we could go look at numbers if you wanted to.
I'm going to go on a little bit of a spiel here.
Go right ahead.
All right, man. So who do we want to talk about first? Tell me which one.
Well, we started with the Ravens first, and we were going to talk about them then, but I said let's wait. So you can talk about Lamar
Okay, fair
first.
enough. So I'll, just for sake of discussion, I'll have this pulled up. Okay. Listen, right? I think there's a 4-letter word that describes Lamar Jackson's future. Jets. Jets. He's going to the Jets for me. There's just why, it's just a perfect situation for player and for team.
I agree.
If the issue has been paying the man, there is no team in the NFL that will pay him, that will give him a contract that he wants in terms of guaranteed cash than the Jets. Perhaps the Ravens, and we spoke about this the other day, perhaps the Ravens eventually are at a point right now that they're so desperate to keep him that they will give him the guaranteed cash that he wants. But if I'm Lamar, F you, man. You didn't give it to me last year. Look how much you guys need me. You guys are trying to force me to play in a game where I'm clearly not 100%. It's not an ideal situation from a footballing standpoint. You're talking lackluster receiving core, running game that's pretty decent, but again, those running backs are always hurt. Think about for the past 2 years, that running back room has been completely decimated with injuries. The defense is elite. Don't get me wrong. The defense is legit.
I love their defense.
But the offense, especially the receiving core, it's just not good enough.
Max, let me ask you real quick.
Yeah.
You're Lamar Jackson. You have the choice to throw to Garrett Wilson. You have Corey Davis. You got Breece Hall. You got an O-line that is really good. They were just banged up.
Good and young.
Yeah. Or you stay in Baltimore where you have Mark Andrews, Rashad Bateman, J.K. Dobbins, and they didn't pay you? They wanted you to just go out there when your knee's messed up as it is? What does Lamar... This is Max. This is the question. What does Lamar Jackson owe the Baltimore Ravens?
He owes him nothing.
Nothing.
Again, he's loyal. I understand. I'm sure part of him wants to stay, but they mistreated him, and I think he knows that. And the thing is, like, even his teammates have come out even before this game saying, "Listen, we support Lamar," because they understand. He's just trying to get his bag, man. I mean, when you get Deshaun Watson, when Deshaun Watson has a fully guaranteed contract, you guys making an obscene. He's making like roughly $40 million a year guaranteed. I mean, Lamar Jackson. Don't get me wrong, Deshaun Watson's a great football player, but Lamar Jackson has done more with his career than Deshaun Watson has, without all the off the field issues. So if there's a guy that deserves that money, it's him. The Baltimore Ravens have been relevant for the past 4 or 5 years because of Lamar Jackson. They have been Lamar Jackson football team, you know? But I just think the Jets, think about it. Although you could argue it's a more competitive division than where the Ravens are, it's a beatable division. They have they have the best defense in the division, I would argue.
Even if it's a more competitive division, does that make it? Because think about this. Let's say the Ravens re-signed Lamar, and that's it. They don't get no receivers. They have the same team as this year. You have the Steelers, who were on the rise. They almost made the playoffs. The Browns, who are going to get better. The Bengals, who won the division. You're playing for a wild card spot anyways. You're going to have to do that in a different division.
It's true.
So it's probably a tougher division, but you're going to be on a better team.
And listen, as a Dolphins fan, full disclosure, I would like him to not come to the division. That would be nice. But, like, if I'm just being objective about it, like, the Jets, if I'm the Jets, I'm giving him whatever contract he wants, man. You don't have to pay these playmakers. You don't have to pay the linemen. You don't have to pay the receivers for the next 2-3 years. This is the time to capitalize. You're literally a quarterback away from competing for a Super Bowl. It's the Jets. And here's the thing: we did the mock draft last time. They could go ahead. I think they could even boost the skill position players on offense. They can draft, in my opinion, the best tight end prospect since Kyle.
That's what I was going to say. You had them getting a tight end.
I have them taking Michael Mayer. That guy's disgusting. Like, do you understand? You put Michael Mayer there. His comp is pretty much like Mark Andrews. He's a Mark Andrews comp player. Plus, you give him Garrett Wilson, Corey Davis, Breece Hall. Are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? Like, no, seriously. It's like, it just makes so much sense. And then the same thing with the DBs now. Like, you have, in my opinion, the second best corner in the league, if not the best. Right now, he just came off his rookie year. Sauce Gardner, he's a first team All-Pro. I mean, dude.
And you got to remember,
what?
I couldn't think of the third receiver. Elijah Moore doesn't have a good relationship with Zach Wilson. I know damn well Lamar Jackson goes to the Jets. Elijah Moore and him, they're getting a connection. He's getting all the receivers the ball.
Elijah Moore would automatically be the best receiver on the Ravens. Mark Andrews is, I guess he's tight end, right?
But we know what you mean, yeah. So I agree with you 100%. I think Lamar Jackson is going to be a New York Jet. I just think it's too late now to offer him the bag, and it's kind of like a please don't leave. Not more of a we want you. It's please don't leave at that point.
It's a desperation move, and Lamar's going to be like, you know what? I don't know you anything.
And if he stays, I think that's stupid for him. I think he needs.
You know what? Again, as a Dolphins fan, awesome. As an objective lover of football, stupid. Because it makes no sense. You're going to waste your career by doing that.
Yep.
You can go to the Jets and potentially be a Super Bowl contender from day one.
I agree.
It's like, think about that.
I've never heard a 7-win team be called a Super Bowl contender. That's how talented that roster is with no quarterback.
That roster's stacked. And the thing is, I'm also banking on them getting a guy like Michael Mayer to complement Lamar Jackson.
Getting even more.
It's like they're going to just get even better. Like, think about it. If you're a defense trying to set up for that team, and again, I'm making an assumption about Michael Mayer. We have to see how he plays in the pros. But based on what I saw in college, like, imagine theoretically scheming for a Mark Andrews type with those receivers. How do you scheme for that? And then you have to deal with Lamar.
Let's say Robert Saleh sprinkles some Baltimore into his playbook. You have Breece Hall to his right, Michael Carter to his left, Garrett Wilson, James Robinson. You have Elijah Moore out there, or you have the tight end. You can run, and then you have Lamar in the middle. You could run pistol. Garrett Wilson's a 1,000-yard receiver. The defense is good. That team is going to compete at a high level if you get Lamar. I know you don't want it because you're a Dolphins fan.
No, the part of me wants it.
But for the fan of football, it's like Lamar is just wasting his time. What did everybody want? What did everybody want from Deshaun Watson? Everybody wanted Deshaun Watson to stop wasting his career in Houston on a losing team. He held out. He moved on. He's on a better team with more weapons, a better scheme.
And they're going to be very good next year.
And that's what I'm saying. Lamar is going to be on a better team with better weapons, better scheme, and a better division. So, I see it the same way as the Deshaun situation without all the bullshit off the field.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
but it's even better because I think this Jets team on paper is maybe not much, but it's, I would say, significantly better than the Cleveland Browns.
Yes, it is. It is. Their weapons are overall better. The only thing
on both sides of the field.
I want to say the run game for the Browns is better, but that's all the Browns do is run it. Imagine if the Jets just ran the ball all year with a healthy Breece Hall. You know
and they could. They could.
They could.
But they don't have to.
With that being said, we're done with Lamar. We know
Lamar.
what we want with him. On to Tom Brady. Go to the Buccaneers side real quick because you're on the Cowboys. We don't care about Dak Prescott's stats.
Yeah. Switch this up. Yeah, I mean, look. I think really tough one. So okay, I'll start off with this. The answer is definitely not staying on the Bucs.
Is he retiring? Is he done?
No.
Tom Brady is not a loser. He doesn't go out like that.
Tom Brady is not going to retire, but Tom Brady is definitely not going to be on the Bucs next year.
I agree.
If he does, I'd be shocked, like genuinely stunned. I think he's not going to the Jets because he's not. If he's going to go back to that division, it's to play for the Pats, and he's not going back to the Pats, so it's not going to be the Jets. 49ers are out of the question because Brock Purdy's that guy. Why would you pay for Tom Brady?
I don't think so, man. I'm a Brady Niners guy because that was his. It's like a Brock Purdy.
Well, why would you do that if Brock Purdy's balling out, man?
No, I get that. Now, if they were like, "Hey, Brady, you want to play for like 10 mil?" and he says, "Sure," you get him. But if Brady's,
you're still stagnating Brock Purdy's progression. The guy is on. You're not paying the guy.
I get that. I know. I get it. It's just. I wish the Brock Purdy story wasn't as good as it was because that's Brady's team. He was a Niners fan as a kid. It would make sense.
No, you're a Brock Purdy hater. As a Brock Purdy guy, as a #1 Brock Purdy fan, no. Brock Purdy's that guy's going to be perennial.
Okay, let's Max. I don't wanna bring up fantasies. Let's pretend Brock Purdy doesn't exist or he does and he's struggling like crazy and they suck.
And obviously Brady
you go get Tom Brady. I think.
But guess what? We don't live in that hypothetical.
We don't live in that.
We live in the world where Brock Purdy's a dog, and he might even win them the Super Bowl this year. So show some respect for Brock Purdy. Tom Brady's not going to the 49ers. Let's stop with that. No. Listen.
I feel like we both
not going to the Jets, not going to the 49ers.
I feel like we both have the same team in mind.
Because there's only really one team.
Does it start with Las Vegas?
I think it might.
I think it's the Raiders, man. I don't know why.
I think I could see a scenario where Carr goes to the Bucs and then Brady goes to the Raiders.
The thing is, yes, I think the Raiders are a better team. Obviously, you have Jacobs, who's a free agent. You got to remember that. They got to get him back. Devontae.
If Brady goes, Jacobs signing immediately.
Yes. You get Devontae, you got Renfro, you got Waller, who was kind of banged up throughout the year. It's an all right defense, but to me, it's just... I just don't find the Raiders as an attractive team to go to, an attractive destination to play for. You know what I mean?
I mean, listen, so I agree. It's definitely not a 49ers situation, for instance, or even a Jets. But here's the thing. Brady's going to be paid a ton because they're going to get rid of the Carr contract. They're going to replace it with the Brady contract. So Brady's going to get paid a ton, and Carr was getting already paid an obscene amount. So you're going to balance out the books there. You got Devontae Adams, who, in my opinion, might still be the best receiver in football. If not, he's top 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
Waller, you know that if he's healthy, he's a top 3 tight end in the league. I think the fact that Josh McDaniels is the coach, Brady has had his best statistical seasons under Josh McDaniels. Yeah. There's a familiarity there. He knows the playbook, so there's no adjustment there. The market is perfect for Brady. Vegas, man. I think he's a Vegas guy. I
Now,
think
I
I could
want
see
to ask you this one question.
Yeah.
I don't think the division's going to be as disastrous as it was this year. Mahomes, Brady, Herbert, Wilson, all in the same division.
That's an electric division.
That, not trying to say it too early like we did last year with Russell Wilson, because you know how that went. That could be the most fun, chaotic football we've ever seen.
True.
You have Mahomes, Brady on Sunday night. You got a Herbert, Mahomes, bro. I kind of want that to happen now. Now that I think about it.
Honestly, I'm telling you, the Raiders are a more enticing proposition than you think. And here's the thing. I think with the Raiders, they're really missing an extra tackle. I think they need a solid. Think of like what Tampa Bay did when they got Brady. They drafted Tristan Wirfs to be that franchise tackle.
Mm-hmm.
They'll do the same thing this year. They have the 7th pick in the draft. They can take Paris Johnson from Ohio State, who's the best tackle in this draft class. So they can go because again, their offensive line has been shaky. I think their run protection has been really good. I mean, Jacobs has had a dominant year, but their pass protection has been meh for years. You get a guy like Paris Johnson, it's like a Tristan Wirfs type pick for Brady. You get him a guy on the blind side who can be the franchise tackle there. You have the 7th pick. You're probably going to get some draft capital from Derek for the Derek Carr trade. So then you can just start building that defense out again, because I do think that defense, I think especially in the secondary, man, they need some help with the corners. They get beat every game. The pass rush, I mean, Crosby's a dog. So I think the pass rush is not terrible. And then obviously they got Chandler Jones, so I think
his former teammate, yep.
Former teammate. I just think the secondary needs a lot of work, and I think there's a lot of good corners in this draft class. So they could always theoretically draft a tackle and then use the draft capital from Carr to either, depending on if they get a first-round pick or not, draft a corner in the first round or trade up to draft a corner. Like they need to draft some corners.
The more I think about it, you got Devontae.
Yeah, dude, it's a good proposition.
Who's top 3. You got Hunter Renfrow. Not saying he's Julian Edelman, but he's
decent.
He has that Julian Edelman play style, quick routes, stuff like that. You have Waller. You have Jacobs. Brady might be a Las Vegas Raider.
Dude, I'm telling you, I think he's probably going to be a Las Vegas
Vegas damn well, whatever team Brady goes to, they kind of go to the next level.
Well, think about the amount of players they're going to want to play there now. It's just awesome. I mean, that's so good for the sport. Like Brady in Vegas, that's so fun, man.
And you're in a brand new stadium, beautiful stadium in Vegas, like you said. It's just in the best.
You're buying into it now, aren't you? Look at you.
You're in the Chargers-Chiefs rivalry now. When Brady comes to KC, that game's gonna be crazy because Kansas City hates Tom Brady. When the Chargers have to play in Vegas, it's gonna be, oh my god, I want this now, Max.
Dude, that's gonna be so fun, man. That's gonna be
so
fun. I think it's gonna be awesome. McDaniels just makes a ton of sense for Brady. I mean, there's a lot of familiarity there from a coaching standpoint. I honestly see a scenario where Brady's a Raider and Derek Carr is a Buck. I really can see a scenario like that.
I see that scenario just as well. Or, I guess for your mock draft, you had the Colts getting a quarterback.
In my mock, I did, but then I for me, I think the Colts have to draft a quarterback.
Yeah, I don't think they go after. They don't go after another veteran guy. They don't do none of that.
Why? And I know Carr is a very good player, but just draft a quarterback. Yeah. You need to, at this point, you need to rebuild.
So we're set in stone. Lamar.
Maybe Jackson. Carolina drafts for Carr, or what if Carolina gets Carr?
You never. Hey, there's so many.
Dude, that's not a bad trade for Carolina at all.
There's so many teams that need stuff this offseason. It's going to be.
The Saints could get Carr. Dude, no one thinks about that. Dude, the Saints could get Carr.
Think about this, man. Think about this.
Dude, what if the Saints got Carr?
Last offseason was
last
offseason was pretty chaotic.
Dude, this
offseason's gonna double that because you have last offseason was the Russell Wilson trade and Deshaun Watson got shipped out and it's oh shit. This is the year where we're expecting things to go down now because we didn't expect that.
Frank, I just thought of this. I'm sorry to interrupt.
You're good.
Dude, NFC South. Brady leaves Tampa Bay. Panthers probably are going to draft a quarterback or trade up for a rookie. The Saints right now have a pretty much, they don't even know who their quarterback's going to be. It's a flux situation. Dude, if the Saints get Carr in a scenario where Brady's not in that division anymore.
There's also, before sorry to interrupt you, there's also a rumor of when it first came out, me and Rodney talked about it, Sean Payton going back to New Orleans with Brady.
It's not going to happen. I thought about that. I was out, that was my number one scenario. I was like, this is definitely going to happen, but they already confirmed that Dennis Allen's going to be the coach.
I think it's the Raiders.
It's going to be Raiders, dude. It has to be Raiders.
So we're set on it. Lamar's a Jet, and Tom Brady is a Raider.
Tom Brady's a Raider, man.
All right, let's head into the playoff predictions really quick. You can pull that screen.
Well, in that case, wait. I just thought of this.
What?
Carr goes to the Ravens. Dude, there's so many scenarios. Okay, sorry. I'm geeking out. Yeah.
Listen, Carr could go to the Ravens, but he ain't going to be passing the ball to nobody good anymore.
Nah, Carr, if I'm Carr, I'm like, Bucks or Saints, one of those two. Boom.
If you're Carr,
probably Saints with Olave and MT. Come on.
If you're Carr, you threaten to retire if they send you to the Ravens. All right, I'm ready for you to pull up the playoff thing when you are. We'll start off with the Bengals Bills. Max, get right into it. I'm going to ask you who you think is going to win, and then I want to ask you who you think is going to be your X factor for each team. Basically saying they changed the game. It could be Josh Allen. It could be as easy as that. Or it could be someone, like I said, for the Jaguars game, Evan Ingram, leading receiver. You know what I mean?
Could it be like a unit?
It could be anything. X factor.
Okay.
So
you
can go first.
All right, so I'll start with who I think's going to win. I think the Bills are going to win. Because it's a Bills home game. They just came off a really ugly win against the Finns. I think they have all the momentum in the sense that home crowd. I understand Cincinnati also got a gritty win over the Ravens. I just think that the way that the Bills looked in comparison with the Bengals, this is going to sound weird. Although they both look terrible, the Bills at least you can defer and say, listen, they got Josh Allen, right? Josh Allen's going to make plays happen. They have the home field advantage. If this game was played in Cincinnati, I might reconsider that position. But I just think that Cincinnati, considering they just made the Super Bowl last year, I could see it being a really close game. But I just think, again, I've told you, I think the Bills are the team of destiny this year. They may not be the prettiest team in the world. They may not be the perfect team. But I just think they have everything riding with them in terms of the momentum. So I'm going to take the Bills for that reason. But to answer your question about X Factor, if you want to get into, or do you want to go with your prediction first?
You can give your answer.
So I'll be very brief with this. If I'm staying with the Bills, it has to be Josh Allen. I hate to state the obvious, but I think Josh Allen needs to rebound from that game because if he plays the way he did against the Dolphins, against the the Bengals, they're going to lose the game. There's no way they survive a five turnover game against the Bengals. That being said, though, I do think he's going to play a really clean game of football. I think he's going to look really good. I think we're going to get the best version of Josh Allen, and I think the Bills are going to win. For the Bengals, though, based on what I saw with the Bills, the Bills' offensive line, I think the reason why I asked you this question earlier about the unit, the defensive line for the Bengals is going to be essential for them to win. Because if they can get pressure on Josh Allen the way that the Dolphins got pressure on Josh Allen, and I would argue the Bengals probably have an overall better pass rush than the Dolphins, then that's going to be a really, really, really big problem for the Bills. That's the key for the Bengals to win the game, frankly. And I'd say even more than the run game. I was going to maybe say Joe Mixon, but I honestly think this is going to be a game of the trenches, and I think in the sense that if the defensive line can put a ton of pressure on Josh Allen and the offensive line does a terrible job of protecting him, he's going to commit turnovers and then he's going to lose the game. But if they can kind of sustain the pass rush, then I think the Bills are just a better team. I think they win. But what's your prediction, Frank?
So I'm going to go with the Bills. Mainly the same reasons you have them. But my X factors are going to be a little bit different than yours. Just tiny. So I am going to pick X factor for the Bills. is going to have to be the Bills secondary. And I was going to go Josh Allen, but I think regardless if Josh Allen has a clean or sloppy game, the Bills secondary, if they can, not shut down, but hold them under what they're like. Burrow had 200 yards against the Ravens, which is a good game, but not for Burrow standards. Like, we've seen Burrow go insane. So if the Bills secondary can hold him to, under 200, and we know Joe Mixon has to show up for them to be, a dominant offense in Cincinnati. So I'm picking the Bills secondary as my Bills X Factor. For the Bengals X Factor, I'm going the opposite. The Bills receivers, or the Bengals receivers, excuse me. The Bengals receivers have to be the X Factor for them, because I think honestly, it all is all on Joe Mixon not being, the run game not being there. And if the Bills can hold the Bengals pass game to 200 yards, they win the game, I believe. I don't think it's, but if the Bengals came out like they did in the DeMar Hamlin situation and score like that, and then just moving the ball, pass, I think they can win the game. So both sides, I hate to have like a X factor for each side where it's secondary versus receivers, but I believe that's what it's going to come down to, is because I believe the Bengals run game isn't going to be relevant, and it's going to come down to the passing game. So that's my picks for that.
I like it. So I guess Jags Chiefs. This is a really hard game for me, man. I'm gonna go KC because I just think, and I spoke about this because we had this hypothetical matchup last week as well.
Yes.
I just said, and I'm gonna kind of echo what I said last week, in the sense that I think the Jags are gonna make this a really interesting game. Like, I think it'll be really close. They might even, get some people thinking they're gonna win the game. But I just think Mahomes' experience, the Chiefs' offense in general, the fact that they've been there, done that, they're gonna overcome the Jags just from sheer experience and home field advantage. But also on the Jags side, I do think they're also like 1 year away from really truly being able to beat the Chiefs in the postseason.
I agree.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree.
So I would have to go Chiefs just because I think they're in a better position to compete today. But if we're talking perhaps even next season, this would be a different conversation perhaps. But I do think the Jags are going to make this really competitive. And so I would say my X factors would be, so if I'm going to go with the Jags, I hate going quarterbacks, but it has to be T-Law, man. I mean, after you threw 4 picks in the first half and then bounce back to throw 4 touchdowns in the second half and win the game, which version of T-Law are we going to get against the Chiefs?
See, normally, picking quarterbacks, like you said, is kind of like, it's whatever. But after you had a 50-50 game where one half was terrible and one half was phenomenal, what's going to happen?
I feel like, you know what I mean?
I like that pick. And normally, like, if you just said, like, Josh Allen, T-Law, I'd be like, whatever. But I understand what you're coming from. I get it.
You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So, like, it sounds very chalky of me to go there, but if you put in the context of he threw 4 picks against the Chargers first half, then threw 4 touchdowns, won the game. If T-Law's throwing picks, he's not coming back against the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Right? But if T-Law plays a clean, efficient game, then they'll compete, which I think he will. I think he's just going to get better.
I think it's going to be that way, too. Who's your X factor for Kansas City?
So for KC, Mahomes, no. Honestly, I think it's the run game.
I like that.
Because I think if Pacheco in particular can have an efficient game on the run, like running the ball. Because here's the thing, right? Jacksonville's going to get pressure on Mahomes, for sure. That's just what they do. And I think by getting pressure on Mahomes, it's going to force him to throw the football away pretty quickly. They may even do a good job on Travis Kelce now that I think about it. But what does that do? That forces them to rely more on the run. And by relying on the run, that gets the receivers open. So I honestly think I would say if I have to point out one person to be Pacheco, but I'd say in general it's the running game for the Chiefs. I think that helps mitigate the potential blow from the Jags defense, who in my
It's
opinion is the hottest defense in
it's
football right
crazy. Like I'm actually so excited to talk about this because it's crazy how similar our X factors are for this game, but how opposite they are.
now. Okay, go tell
I'm
me.
picking Kansas City to win. Said it last week. I'm always a Kansas City guy. Mahomes. Da 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 da. Don't really have to say much. He is him. Jacksonville's young. We know that. I want to get into my X factors, and you're gonna love this. We'll start with Jacksonville.
Okay.
Jacksonville's X factor. You picked the X factor for the Chiefs as the run game. Jacksonville's X factor is going to be stopping the run. It's going to be that D line because the Chiefs have been great since they've got Pacheco in his role as the starting running back, and they've kind of controlled all of their games because of that. Yes, they obviously have Mahomes, they have Kelsey, they do these crazy flick plays and ring around the rosy and bullshit, whatever they want to do. But if you can get them into a situation where you know they are passing, sure, Mahomes can always make the play. Kelsey will do his thing. It's the Chiefs. They will get their success one way or another. But if you can at least hone in and let your team know, hey, they have to pass. They cannot run. So I don't know if you count it as a unit or as a scheme thing, but the X factor to me is going to be stopping Isaiah Pacheco. So whether that's the D line, the linebacker, because they do have, I'm going to say his name so wrong, so I'm not going to say it. They have the leading tackler in the NFL as their linebacker.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. I can't say his name.
Foyce something. He played for the Falcons last year. Great. You're playing a team now where Travis Kelce's going to be in your lanes and Isaiah Pacheco is going to be running at you. He might be my X factor, honestly. So I honestly love that. And for Kansas City, Max, you're going to love this X factor. Did you hear what Trevor Lawrence said today?
No, what he said?
Trevor Lawrence said, playing an Arrowhead, can't imagine it won't be much louder than Jacksonville was. He took a shot at the crowd. My X factor is that Arrowhead crowd. Because you know this for a fact. As a diehard Dolphins fan, when someone talks about your team, I've heard you say it on the phone, we're going to bring it to that bitch in the stadium. They're going to be loud. They're going to be hyped. Da, 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 da. When people on Twitter, I've seen, because I'm a Giants fan, Nick Sirianni was talking about, I was eating pizza, not really caring about the game. Giants fan took that with disrespect. They said, we're going to Philly. We're going to make noise. Arrowhead fans, Chiefs fans, I know they heard Trevor Lawrence say, it's not going to be louder than Jacksonville. Really now? I think the crowd, because you got to remember, he's played there before. So he's already been in that stadium. And they probably weren't electric as they normally are. But it's a playoff game now. And he just called Arrowhead out and said, you guys aren't loud. I don't know, man. That's just me. I'm excited.
Pretty messed up. I don't know why T-Law would go there, but
I think it was more of like a friendly shot because he was like supporting.
No, it was probably more geared towards, oh, wow, the crowd really was loud in Jacksonville.
Yeah,
like,
he said, I can't imagine it would be louder than Jacksonville. So I think Arrowhead's going to be like, oh, you think we're not fucking loud?
Yeah.
So, I think it's going to cause some, not chaos for him, but you're a young quarterback. You're in a playoff game, especially in an atmosphere like Arrowhead. You're going to be doing this a couple times. You can't hear. Timeouts, delay a game, stuff like that might happen. I'm excited. On to the next game. Oh, the next game, Max.
You want to go first?
I'll go first. All right.
I know who you're picking.
I'm picking the Giants. Here's why. Hold on. Here's why. Now, I've kind of lost some confidence in it over the past week. So you remember, we did our show last week. We talked about the Eagles. They looked slow the past 4 weeks. Hurts was injured. They struggled against backups in Week 18 versus the Giants. They lost to the Saints. They lost to the Cowboys with a 40 to 38 game or whatever it was. So you've allowed a lot of points. You haven't looked good on offense. Stuff like that. But as the week goes on, I'm like, damn, the Eagles have probably just kind of brushed that off by now. That's what the bye week, I think, was good for. Even though you have not played, you kind of brushed that lost momentum and kind of just, okay, we're back at 50-50. We're in the middle. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
The Giants come off one of their best performances of the season and have to play a division rival. It's hard to beat a division rival 3 times. You know this. The D-line will be healthy. Everybody is healthy from right now. Azeez Ojulari is the only person dealing with injury. Brian Dibble said he is practicing. He will play. He should be good. If he's hurt, if he's not playing, he's tripping because he was fine after the game. I really think this is where my X factor comes in. If Daniel Jones plays the cleanest game of his life again, the Giants can win.
I agree.
But my X factor is going. Oh man, there's so many I can pick.
Dude, if you say who I think you're gonna say, I'm gonna be so upset because I think we might be thinking the same thing here.
There's two people. So I was originally gonna go Daniel Jones and Saquon.
Yeah.
But I think it's more than that though, because you can score on Philly. You have to stop Philly, and that comes to 3 players now in my mind.
Dude, I knew you were gonna go here, man. I
have 3 players.
Fuck. Okay.
There's Adoree Jackson.
Yeah.
Who just came back.
I was literally going to say Adoree Jackson, bro.
No, you can say him if you want to. But here's the thing. I think it becomes more of just, even if this is not a shot at Jalen Hurts, because we both like Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, of course.
There comes a point where in the NFL, I'm not saying he can't do this. Adoree Jackson is not going to be my X factor, because even if he plays well enough on A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith, someone still's covering the other guy. The other one will still get open. Which is why I think my X factor is going to be Dexter Lawrence.
Okay.
Because passing the ball in the NFL, they're all NFL quarterbacks. Let's get that bullshit narrative out the window that NFL quarterbacks suck. They can make throws. Now, when you have a 320-pound defensive lineman hauling you down, it's a little bit more difficult. So I think Dexter Lawrence has to disrupt a smaller center in Jason Kelce. Get through, cause pressure. Because he was, in the Giants game, he was in Kirk Cousins' face. Kirk Cousins delivered the throw. The same thing is going to have to happen for Jalen Hurts. I think if he gets in his face, he's going to have to make the play. And I think Hurts is capable of doing it. That's my X factor for the Giants. For the Eagles, I'm going to be honest. I don't have a specific player. Actually, I do. I do have a specific player. No, I don't, because we don't have that good of receivers. I was going to say James Bradbury or Darius Slay, but they're not covering anybody crazy. I think it's going to have to be the Eagles' O-line.
Okay.
Because the Giants' pass rush, Kayvon Thibodeau has stepped up over the past few weeks. Dexter Lawrence has emerged as an all-pro. Leonard Williams. Did you see the pressures between him and Dexter Lawrence this week?
They look really good.
They had 7 each. That was top 3. They had 7 each. And then you have Azeez hopefully playing. Your run game has been amazing all year. You have to keep Hurts clean because obviously he's healed, but how much has Hurts healed? You don't know. So I have the Eagles O-line as the X factor, and Dexter Lawrence for the Giants is their X factor. He has to cause chaos. The Eagles have to obviously shut him down, keep Hurts clean. I'm picking the Giants to win out of biased fandom, but if I'm looking at it from the outside in as just an NFL fan, I think they make it close, but I think the Eagles' firepower is too much for a team like New York where they have a scheme to, play well, but they don't have the team to hang on with a team like Philadelphia. But we'll see. Philly has looked rough. That's why it's hard for me to pick this game.
I agree. It's a very hard game to pick. I'm actually genuinely torn, man.
No, you see what I mean? Like, it's hard
torn.
to pick because obviously I watch every Giants game. I see the bright spots in the Giants. But I also know what their weak spots are and where the Eagles excel at. And where the Eagles excel at is our weak spots.
Dude, and here's the thing. I've seen this in history before. This Giants team, no one's taken that seriously. Good for them. They overachieved. They beat Minnesota. Minnesota's not that good. They should have beaten them.
You want me to tell you
But then
history?
they upset divisional.
You want me to tell you some history?
Oh.
2007, beat the Buccaneers, go on to play Dallas. Dallas is the unstoppable team. Smoked the Giants both times that year. They go into Dallas's house, pick off Tony Romo at the end, move on to play Green Bay in the NFC Championship. Not saying that's going to happen. Not trying to be like, oh, that's the team this year.
But I'm saying there's historical precedent.
There's historic. The Giants are always like this. It's always been this way for New York, and it's weird because if they win this game, like we said earlier with the whole contract thing, this is a statement for Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley. But if they lose in a shitter, it's like, what do you do? I see your react. Bro, it's a hard game to pick. I understand.
Because here's the thing, right?
Let's hear your X Factors. Maybe that will make your pick easy.
All right, let's do X Factors.
Let me hear yours.
Well, so for the Giants, we have literally the same X Factor. I have Adoree Jackson, but if you want, we could do secondary at large. Again, if they're going to beat the Eagles, it's because they're coping. They're doing a good job of mitigating and stopping the receivers.
Yep.
Because that's how Philly's going to beat them, is with the receivings or with the receivers and the skill position players out wide. So I agree with you in that point. For the Eagles, for me, it actually goes to the receivers. It has to go to A.J. Brown. I think A.J. Brown in particular.
That's what I did with the Bills-Bengals. You see, it's tough because one team's going to win by being better than the other at their position. Now, I want you.
All right, I'm taking the Giants.
Woo!
I'm taking the Giants.
I want you to think about this, Max. Someone made a great point. I watch a lot of podcasts and streams. Shout out to all my podcasters out there. They said this. The Giants, in Week 14 when they lost to the Eagles, went up like 25-0 or something like that. And 3 drives got extended on a 4th down that they converted, a bunch of 3rd and longs they converted. And that was the most injured the Giants have been all year. Missing 2 defensive linemen, 3 corners out, McKinney's out, stuff like that. So they're hurt. And someone said, having Adoree Jackson and McKinney back don't take away 25 points off the board, but they end 3 drives that take away 25 points off the board. They end that 3rd and long. They end that 4th and 10. You know what I'm saying? So I am excited. It's in Philadelphia. It's a division playoff matchup. I'm nervous, but I'm excited.
But I'm saying, honestly, I think, so there's a couple reasons why I went Giants. One is the historic. I'm a sucker for history, man. You know this.
Yes.
And I'm a big believer, especially in sports, that history repeats itself for the most part. And I think, although I don't know if there's a lot of history between Eagles and Giants in the postseason, perhaps, but it's more like, I've seen this with the Giants throughout my life. I've seen it before. So like, it wouldn't shock me at all. It's a big win against Minnesota. Yes, there's a little bit more pressure now because there's some expectation now with the Giants, whereas against Minnesota, actually a lot of people were taking them to beat Minnesota, so that's not true. But for me, it's not even that I'm concerned about Hurts because I think Hurts is fine, at least good enough to play an efficient football.
I think so too.
It's more like, how do I describe this? I just think the fact that it's a divisional opponent is exactly what the Giants want right now.
Yeah. Like I said,
it's like
you play a team three times. It's hard to beat a team 3 times. The third, like when you guys beat the Bills, it was 1-1, and then you guys go to the playoffs. We're down 0-2 against these guys, but the second time we played them with our third strings, we schemed well. When
was the last time you guys beat Philly in Philly?
That's what I was about to say. Every time we play Philly in Philly, it's been like 2011. We haven't beat them, bro. We have not beat Philly in forever, and this is where, it's kind of not a luck thing or a fate thing, but like we've lost on the Jake Elliott 63-yard field goal. Evan Ingram drops the ball on Thursday night, and they go on to win that game. Everything has always gone wrong for the Giants against Philly. What if this is the time it turns around? Because I'm not saying that Philly...
Dude, that would be so freaking ironic.
Bro, I'm not saying this is the time This is not the time where Philly's like, what am I trying to say? That they have pressure on them, but they're Philadelphia. They're the first seed. They're supposed to win. They're this and that. Da, 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 da. They're the best in football. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
oh, I know. No, that's why I'm taking the Giants. So I've taken the Giants.
That's crazy. On to the next game, Max.
You're gonna hate this one, dude. I'm taking the Dallas Cowboys to beat the San Francisco 49ers, dude. I'll tell you what.
I don't hate it because I think it's possible.
Because I just think their defense is on a mission, man. I think their defense is on a mission to will their team. And again, I can't say that because that's unfair to how Dak and the offense played against the Bucs. So you gotta give them credit. But like Dallas's defense is just, especially Micah Parsons, like I understand San Fran has a really good offensive line. They have incredibly good weapons. I mean, it's just like it's one of those like I think Brock Purdy might struggle against the Dallas defense.
Yeah,
and I think Dak might be able to, especially the run game for Dallas. They might play well against San Fran's run defense, and I think Dak might have a clean game offensively again. I think we might see a similar. Now it won't be as much of a block because I think San Fran is incredible. I think they're a better team than the Cowboys, but I think that it'll be a similar game plan to how the Bucs game went for the Cowboys.
So does this tie into your X factor? Because I feel like I know where you're going with it.
I haven't really thought about that. So let me go Niners first with the X factor.
Okay.
And then we can go. So I think I have to go run defense for the Niners because I just think that the best way to beat Dallas is to stop the run.
Yep.
If you force Dak to win them a football game, he's going to lose it. If they I'm telling you right now, this pick will look stupid. If they actually manage to shut down or mitigate the run game for Dallas and Dak has to throw the ball a ton of times, this pick will look really dumb. Like, I'm just telling you that right now. Okay? And I think that Purdy... So, okay, going to the Dallas point. I think the secondary is going to be essential for Dallas. Because I think... I guess it's the defense. Can I say defense as a whole? I hate that. But can I say defense as a whole?
Yeah.
Because the reason why I say that is because you're talking... You need to get Micah Parsons in particular on Purdy's ass. Like, you need them to pass rush, put a ton of pressure on the quarterback, force him to make throws, and then you need guys like Trayvon Diggs to go out and make plays on the defensive side to stop those receivers from getting the football. Because a lot of what they do is, and this is where I'm going to incorporate the linebackers, for instance, a lot of what they do, if you notice with the 49ers, is they don't really do a lot of deep balls. It's not a lot of deep throws. They have that in them, but that's not really what their offense is. It's really primarily run, or slants that turn into big yardage. Like, look at the Deebo Samuel touchdown, right? It was a slant that turned into like a 75-yard touchdown because he's just faster than everyone. Most of Kittle's plays are like 10, 15-yard catches that turn into he gets big rack yards.
They do a lot of, I wouldn't say crossers, but they've had plays where like Ayuk runs up a seam and they have a drag to keep that corner there and they hit the seam, or they have the crossing routes with someone underneath to keep somebody there. They do a lot of.
It's usually short yardage burst plays that they rely on, and I think if Dallas is a defensive unit,
they do a lot of keeping you on your toes, a lot of movement, a lot of making someone move somewhere else to get somebody else open.
Yes, very much so. And so I think if Dallas is a defensive unit, can get pressure on the quarterback, which forces them to rely on the run game more, / forces them to rely on short yardage even more than they already do, right? Because they want to get the ball out quick. Then the secondary can do their job to mitigate the long yardage plays. And the linebackers could even drop back in coverage, essentially, and try to stop or anticipate those short yardage plays. So what does that do? That forces Purdy to win the game on his own completely and make his own reads, which, I'm a Purdy guy. I love Purdy. At this point of his career, he's going to struggle to do that, especially against this defense. So I think it requires Dallas to have, so in soccer, there's an expression. It's a master class. I don't know if you're familiar with that expression. Masterclass meaning tactically you got it so right that you won the game, that it's like a masterclass, right? It was just a perfect performance. Like you look back on that and and other managers can look back on that and say, wow, that manager tactically set it up perfectly. You're going to require a Dallas defensive masterclass, like not just good performance, like dominant world-class performance to win the game, and I think Dallas can do it.
I agree. I mean, I'm picking the Niners. That is the team I want to go with. But my X factors aren't too far off from yours. My Dallas X factor is going to be one player, pretty obvious name, defensive side of the ball, Micah Parsons. I feel like not so much they're going to implement the same thing, but I feel like the Niners are going to kind of do what the Eagles did in their first matchup and kind of, teams scheme away from Micah Parsons. Do you remember what the Eagles did? They made Micah Parsons pick who to cover. They had the rollout play where it's a handoff, pass, run with the quarterback. Well, you have McCaffrey now. Kittle, Samuel. You could send a sweep Parsons' way, make him pick to cover that, hand it off, or throw it above him on a Kittle fade route. So I think Micah Parsons has to be the game wrecker he's known to be against a kid like Brock Purdy, who, let's be honest, hasn't played a crazy star-studded defense yet. Seattle's nothing spectacular on the D-line.
No.
You need to rattle Brock Purdy. I don't mean hit him, like rattle him that way.
Get pressure on him.
Mentally rattle him. Don't let him know where you're gonna go. If you're gonna pick to cover McCaffrey or cover this, go at him. Make him make the mistake. So that's my X factor for Dallas. And honestly, mine for the Niners, I want to go with a linebacker. I want to be like, stop the run, like a Dre Greenlaw or Fred Warner. But I'm going to go with Charvarius Ward if he's tasked with covering CeeDee Lamb. If you take CeeDee Lamb out of the equation, obviously CeeDee will probably get his regardless. I don't think they're going to scheme to have him cover him one-on-one the whole game. But if you are matched up on him, force him to throw to Noah Brown, Michael Gallup, T.Y. Hilton. The pressure will probably get there. Dallas' O-line is good. You have Tyler Smith, who's played great this year. But if you can take their number one away and make their 2 or 3 have to make a play in a game where the Niners defense with Bosa and all those rushers, great linebackers. If you can take CeeDee Lamb out of that game, it's a whole different game now. So I'm putting Charvarius Ward as my X factor and Micah Parsons, 2 defensive guys.
So for sake of the list, which team are we putting to play your Giants?
I'm going to be honest. I'm not against the Cowboys being there because they're playing a Brock Purdy, like you said. They're playing a young rookie who's never been there before. Hasn't.
I know, but I hate it. I hate it as a football fan because I would prefer. Okay. I love it, but hate it as a football fan because I think this would be an incredibly awesome scenario in the sense that, like, oh, big upset, right? But I dislike it because I prefer the 49ers over there.
No, I agree. I think the Niners are the better team, but like I said, like for the X Factor, Micah Parsons, if they can get to Purdy and make him make mistakes, you'll win that game.
So do I put Cowboys in there?
You could put the Cowboys. I'm okay with that.
Were you going to say that?
If you remember in the Niners-Seahawks game, there was a play early on. Ayuk streaked down the field. Debo ran across wide open. He doesn't hit Debo. He throws that streak. And they replay to Purdy, and they show him reacting like yelling at Ayuk. But everybody in the world knows that's not the right read. Shanahan's going to get him right, make him see that shit, say, throw this. This is the right read. And now you're getting late in the playoffs. You can't make those mistakes. You're not playing Seattle with a defense. You're not playing a Geno Smith who's been a up and down. You're playing a guy who just threw 4 touchdowns against the Bucs. You're playing a defense that was top 5 in sacks at one point in the year. You're playing a team that gets to the quarterback. You can't want to make that play. You have to make the right play.
I agree.
I think that's what it comes down to. And do I change my X factor to Brock Purdy now? Does he have to play perfect?
I mean, I don't think so because at the end of the day, if Brock Purdy doesn't have a good game, but Dallas can't cover McCaffrey,
yeah, that's true.
doesn't matter.
That's the beauty of the 49ers.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so that's our playoff predictions for this week. I like it. I like it. I like
Dude,
it.
the NFC, it's literally the NFC beast.
Right.
Not the NFC East, the NFC
I
beast.
thought about it yesterday. I was like, damn, bro. I was like, we're really on the postseason. And I hate it because it's like, I always talk about how good it is when every division is competitive, and it's like when it's your division, it's so fun to watch. But once it comes to the postseason, it's hateful, bro. It's heated. I hate that
That's what I'm
fucking team.
saying.
I hate the Eagles so much. So, I like it, Max. This is what we have going into next week. We'll come back to it when the time comes next week. You're good to close it out, Max. How you feel, Max? That was a long one, long podcast.
Yeah, that was a long one.
Long one. But we'll get out of here real quick with that being said. I hope everybody enjoyed the pod. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and peace.